Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Tuesday. We're in the midst of fall. We're through 6 weeks through the NFL. Hockey's going. The world is great. And luckily for us, we're midway through, almost to the end of season 4 of Breaking Bad. And this is when the show really starts to get interesting. We'll talk about episodes 10 and 11 today, which are both really great. A lot of interesting concepts, which we'll dive into. But before we start, if you're watching the video of this podcast, you can see my co-host is sporting a Justin Turner Los Angeles Dodgers uniform. Those Dodgers, Los Dodgers, as you may say, are down 0-2 in their series to the Atlanta Braves. They were last year. They did rally. It's not a series until you lose one at home. So, Shay, do you feel fairly confident with Game 3 tonight at Chavez Ravine?
I'm pretty confident that they'll pull it off. You know, I still have the jersey on for luck because you never know. I could have told you at a gate that this Atlanta team was really good. You know, even though they lost their best player midseason, I think they were still very competitive with the guys they picked up and at the trade deadline. So yeah, no, I'm confident, but at the same time, I know how good these guys are. So, and also you got, like you mentioned, you know, they were in this exact same predicament last year, and you know, they ended up blowing it. So did they blow it again, or did they learn from their mistakes? So it'll be interesting. I'm nervous, but we'll see. It's always good for Dodgers when we're at home. That's all I'll say.
For sure. You see the celebrities out tonight. I'm sure Magic Johnson. I don't know if Magic Johnson will be the 2 p.m. first pitch in LA. That's a little early for Magic. He's probably heading. I guess you can head to that game and hit the Lakers later with their home opener tonight with the Golden State Warriors in town. But before we get to Breaking Bad, I have to ask you about 4 games in. Your Leafs are 2-1-1. I don't think Mitch Marner has dressed yet for a game.
You still looking for him out there?
I'm still looking for him. I haven't really seen much. What do you make of your team as a whole through 4 games?
Quiet for first. I'll be honest with you. It's kind of disappointing. I mean, you know, you kind of waiting for this hot start. That's what they got on last year. I know it's your favorite division, the Canadian division, but still, I'm waiting for them to kind of pop off and, you know, get going with these goals. And of course, Matthews didn't play the first 3 games, but you know, he's back now. He's got to find his grapple. I thought they got, I mean, I don't want to say they got robbed, but they put a lot of shots on Shesterkin last night, and they, you know, couldn't get it done. So that's a kind of a kudos to him for being really good. So I'm excited. Yeah, no Marner though. It's been all Nylander for the first 4 games, which I don't mind, but I don't know when that guy's going to wake up or not. We'll see. He's kind of been a question mark out there.
Yeah, Bill playing well. My guy, the former Maple Leafs punching bag is now the hero. I gotta love stories like that for old Bill Nylander. But
yep.
I mentioned episodes 10 and 11 last week, Shay. We talked about a lot. We ended talking the podcast about the big fight between Walter and Jesse, where Jesse basically told Walter to get the fuck going and never come back to see him. We know that Jesse is going to be heading to Mexico with Mike and Gus to meet the cartel. There's interesting things with Skylar and Ted when it comes to the IRS. So there's a lot that we dive into in these 2 episodes, and all the storylines I really enjoy. Even the Skylar ones I find really compelling in these episodes.
Yeah, it's a real roller coaster for these 2 episodes, because your emotions go from, you know, complete lows to highs, I find. But yeah, absolutely, that huge fight. We basically see the effects of both guys. I mean, they're both kind of banged up, more Walter than Jesse, I guess, you know, but still, I mean, it's you know, they're in opposite directions now. They're probably as furthest away as you possibly could be between 2 guys who work together. So it's exciting. And like you said, these 2 episodes, this one called Salou, is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
probably it's real. The peak of the season is, you know, these 2 episodes, in my opinion, because you really just get, you know, you just get so much information. And of course, going to Mexico and seeing the other side, I would say, is kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, I like that too, to see how the other side, the other half lives, so to speak. And it starts off with Mike, Gus, and Jesse are just standing in the middle of the desert. We see Gus has this box of sort with a ribbon on it, saying that it's a gift of some sort for his compadres over in Mexico. But really what I took from this, Shay, is just Jesse. He's standing there. They're going to get on a plane. He's stressed out. To me, he just looks completely like I have no idea what I'm walking into here, and anything could happen.
Yeah, because I mean, we've seen it before. If one wrong move, take Gus's partner or former partner, I guess I should say, one wrong move with the cartel and you're dead. Like, you don't really get that second chance. And Jesse knows this. He's worked with Tuco, who's affiliated, and other members. So it is super stressful to think about. You can see him looking around. He's got that second look before he gets on the plane, because obviously once you're on there, I mean, there's no going back. You're not jumping off, obviously. So it is interesting. One thing I love, and they don't, the writers never change this, Jesse just wears the same kind of like baggy, like kind of rundown clothes, like kind of wanksterous in a way, and they never change that. It's not like he starts to dress better, you know what I mean? And he's still wearing this. It's just funny. It's just a remark I kind of noticed throughout these 2 episodes.
Yeah, he's a multi-millionaire, very close to it, and he still looks like the guy who's cooking the chili pea in episode 1.
Yeah,
so exactly. I like that as well. That he's changed mentally for sure, but appearance for Walter or Jesse has never really been top priority. Walter still looks like a school teacher that makes he's a middle-class man. They both don't. He still drives the Aztec. So Jesse still drives that shit box for a red car. So I like that as well, that they stuck to their humble beginnings. We'll pivot to Walter. We're at Walter's apartment. We see his glasses are broken on the table, a bloody rag, and the phone is ringing, and we just hear Skylar. And we kind of learn that we haven't seen Walter for 3 to 4 days. He's kind of been MIA, no sign of him. And, he missed Junior's birthday, and she kind of just leaves him a message while he's sleeping there with the sheet over his head.
Yeah, stained with blood. And, she says, I can't wait any longer. As we know in the last episode, kind of when Walter was laying in bed, that they're going to buy a car for Walter Jr. And I was disappointed in their choice, but I mean, it's a decent car. So obviously he wakes up and, she gives the whole, oh, can you go outside and, get something? I think it was the paper or something like that, and then come back in. And he's not the most excited about her choice, I guess. Yeah. Walter really didn't even care what kind of car he was given. And Walter Jr.'s like, I'll take it for a drive later, maybe, it's like, well, not really. And I think she's disappointed with the reaction, which is totally normal.
Yeah, I can't blame him. It's purple, pretty much, Shay.
Yeah,
it's pretty close to purple. If it's not, I'm not the greatest with colors. I'm not our friend Dawson, who is colorblind, but I think that's a shade of purple, and I wouldn't love it if I walk outside. I'm like, hey, I have to drive this purple thing to school.
Yeah.
And just to put this in context, he has cerebral palsy, so he's already standing out. I'm not making fun of people with disabilities. It's just pointing out the fact that you're already an outcast of sorts because you're different from everybody else. And now he drives a purple car that's going to put more attention on a male driving a purple car. I wouldn't love that look.
Yeah, no chick magnet, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'd be better off getting a pink, convertible, I think, because women be more likely to come say hi. We'll stick with Walt Jr. because he's missing his father. He missed his birthday party. Really shitty couple of days from Walter. Drives to Walt's. He calls him. He's hammering on the doorbell, and Walter finally opens the garage door in his underwear, tidy whities, and he basically says, "Come on in." And he has to explain to Junior that he got into a fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. He's bleeding. His face is just mangled. It looks like he's just been a boxing bag for about 2 days straight. And, what is he going to say? But of course he has to lie. He can't say where he actually was or who actually beat him
Mhm.
up. So he says, oh, this has to do with gambling, probably referring to, maybe he owed some gambling debts and maybe he got beat up. And he was he was using this basically so Walter Jr. wouldn't
Skylar.
call Skylar and say, dad's beat to shit. Like what's going on here? And Walter just basically says, like, you got to keep this between us. And, we see this is a great scene by Cranston. He
Mhm.
really just breaks down and says, the absolute worst. We kind of find out later that he was kind of on painkillers, some heavy painkillers from maybe a surgery, but he was kind of just break down, and him and Walter Jr. just kind of share a really good moment where, Walter Jr. is the one comforting him, saying, it's okay, Dad. Like, this isn't your fault. This is kind of like a disease for you, and puts him back into bed and really just kind of, assesses the situation, I guess. And in Walter's slumber, he calls Walter Jr. Jesse as he's leaving. And this
Yeah.
was kind of a big red flag for me, Jug. What did you think?
Yeah. Because he said it loud enough that Junior heard him. Like he knew he didn't. It clearly in his, like you said, foggy state through drugs. He does feel bad for what he's done to Jesse. I think Walter would never admit this when he's completely sober because he's got such a big ego. But when he's drugged up, it's when people say this: you're gonna get the truth from drunks, kids, drunks, and drunks and little kids will tell you the truth. And
Yeah.
he's on drugs, and I think he knows he's at fault for most of that situation with Jesse. And he says that in his stupor, and Junior's just kind of left looking like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't think he maybe not even know who Jesse is, I guess, or
No.
maybe he doesn't put two and two together because we really don't see it come up again. Maybe it comes up towards the end of the season, but he doesn't mention anything. And we find out that Walter wakes up and Jesse's just kind of, or Jesse, Walter Jr.'s has slept over on the couch, and he's actually fixed his glasses for him when Walter wakes up.
Right. So when he wakes up, he kind of Junior stayed the night. He's on the couch, and he wakes him up, and he starts telling this story about his father, how his father died when he was 6, and he had Huntington disease. And he said, I thought I knew my father because people always told me things about him. I knew how he liked his steak, medium rare, and what he liked to wear and what he was like as a person. But he said, I kind of never really knew. And he said, what I did know him as was seeing him in that hospital bed when he was hooked up to machines, basically, and was not the person that I remembered him by. But that's how you remember that person, seeing them in their last state. And he basically tells Junior, please don't remember me the way I was last night. I don't want you to remember me like that. And for another really honest moment from Walter to his son, saying, I'm not like this. Like, remember me at my best of times.
Yeah, and when Walter Jr. kind of claps back and says, I didn't mind seeing you like that because it was the first time in, a whole year, Walter Jr. says, that you were real with me.
Mhm.
Meaning he hasn't felt great about his father in almost a year, which of course is not a great thing, but it just goes to show, what, like you said, like Walter he was just honest because of the state he was in. He was all drugged up, and probably got a concussion for God's sakes.
Mm,
And he was just being honest at that time, and he was like he was saying he was sorry, for the things he'd done. Probably honestly just saying sorry for real for getting their family into this situation, even
right.
though he couldn't tell Walter Jr. for what was going on. Well, he can still apologize for it, even though subconsciously he doesn't. He's actually referring to everything from cooking meth to getting to business with Gus to
Mhm.
putting their family in danger as a whole, really.
Yeah. And it's something that Walt is saying, remember me the past year. Because clearly he doesn't have awareness that his own son is not an idiot. He's seen his
Mm,
father lie constantly and be
yeah.
aloof and not be around. And he thinks he's been a pretty good dad. And Walt Jr. like
Mm.
said, class back basically saying, no, you've been a piece of shit. Like last night was one of
Mm.
the only times I can really say I enjoyed our experience together.
Yeah, which is not a great thing.
No, not father of the year by any means for old Walter White. So we finished the last episode with Ted and Skylar talking about the IRS, and Skylar kind of helped him out, pretending to be like this dumb floozy, even though he's been, Ted's been cooking the books on his business, and he's gonna have to shut down the business here soon. He's in a lot of trouble, but he gets a call from Saul Goodman, and he goes down and meets with him, and Saul's like, yeah, I got some tough news for you. Your great aunt passed away from Luxembourg. And Ted's like, I don't have a great aunt. She goes, oh, well, she died like 8 years ago. But she had no will. So it's going to you. You're the next in line. $621,524. Basically the amount that's needed to pay the IRS, which would be a red flag for me. But he's just like, oh, this is great. And he takes that money and runs with it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, dandy, this is great. We found out later he's maybe misusing it, but you know, this is some greasy things. I mean, so even it's bad when Saul says this is not a great idea, because clearly this is Skylar giving the money that Walter made over
Right.
to Ted so that they don't get in trouble. But that's a whole nother issue. We'll get into this episode and next
Yeah.
episode, I guess.
Yeah. He has no idea. And that's a big chunk of change, obviously over $500,000 that he's giving to
Yeah.
Ted. And, later in the episode, Saul goes to see Skylar at the car wash, and he says, yeah, so I hate to say I told you so, but we know Saul loves to say I told you so. And he says, yeah, I've been checking his bank statements. And yeah, this afternoon he went and bought a brand new Mercedes. And yeah, 3-year lease. Looks good. And yeah, basically he's not paying the IRS. He's buying a bunch of new toys.
Yeah, so basically Skylar's plan of basically laying his solution out right in front of Ted is not come true. And we kind of find out that Ted is not only not going to pay, but he's going to start the business back up. He's just down for putting everything on hold. He says, I gotta pay my employees, and I've got to get things running again. But he has really no concept of what the consequences will be.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, if they open the case back up, they might find out that it wasn't just ignorance like they first initially thought, and then it was actual fraud. And then of course everybody kind of gets tapped and then goes to jail. But he doesn't really see it that way. He sees it as, oh well, I'll get a better lawyer, and I can fight this. But that's not how this works.
Yeah. In your experience, no lawyer is going to beat this case, right? Like, he's dead to rights.
No. Yeah. Oh, it's right in front of them. It's been pretty evident that what they've been doing. So, and they basically have him in custody. They just have to basically prove that he was doing it intently, and then he's pretty much done.
Right. So yeah, so Skylar obviously is pretty PO'd that he's not going to pay the IRS. So she goes and visits him at the office, and he says, no, I haven't paid the IRS yet. I will. I've got some money lately. Things are starting to turn around. The universe is talking to me. Everything's going to be okay. And, she pipes in. The universe is saying, pay what you owe. Like, this is getting you out of the situation. Like you just said, getting you out of jail. Like, please do this. But he kind of snaps back at her and says, it's my money, Skylar. Don't tell me what to do with it. It doesn't affect you at all.
And she is, at this point, she's pissed, even goes, there's the door, find your way out. And Skylar goes, who do you think you are? Like, getting that money from Aunt Bridget, basically saying, I gave you that money, because how else would she know that? And Ted's like, what do you mean? Like, you paid me? He's like, yes, of course I paid you. Like, this affects her and Walter just as closely as it affects Ted in the grand scheme of things. And, Ted says, I'm still not paying. So I don't know what to tell you. And that's it for Skylar.
Yeah, this carries into the next episode, which gets more interesting. But yeah, he's pretty dumbfounded that Skylar, first of all, was able to give him 600 grand. I mean, that doesn't just pop out of nowhere, but also that it wasn't the great aunt Bridget. And maybe this proves why Ted's business wasn't going so well, because he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, so to speak. Let's get to Mexico. So they're in a Hummer, blindfolded, and they get brought to basically the meth lab in Mexico. And Jesse's there, and he's surrounded by chemists. And there's this one main guy. He's clearly an intelligent guy. He speaks multiple languages. Bald guy, seen him on many shows, including 24. But he's talking to Gus. Jesse doesn't know obviously Spanish, and basically he's calling Jesse a joke. He said, "This is the chemist. Like this idiot is your chemist," and he has no respect for Jesse whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, like we hinted on earlier, Jesse's image is not, he doesn't care much about what he looks like or, how he presents himself. But we know that Jesse is very competent at what he does, clearly, being under Walt for that long. So, Jesse can't understand, but he gets the tone, and he's starting to get the drift that this guy thinks he's just, just nobody, essentially.
Meow.
Yeah, the cat's meow. And he goes, listen, bitch. And they start getting an argument over, a product that they use. I don't know if you have it written down. It's like something.
Yeah, the hydrochloric acid.
Yeah. So basically that's so it's usually synthesized for Jesse when he goes to do it, but it's not in this case. So Jesse kind of makes a fuss, and the guy says, listen, if you can't do this, this chemist says, if you can't do this, and this is basic chemistry, I don't know what to tell you. And Jesse goes into a really, really, well, I would say rant, but he just bitches this guy out. I'll let you take it from here. But this was a great scene by Jesse, because he basically puts on his big boy pants, and all this stress that we seen leading up to this kind of goes away as he becomes kind of the man in the situation.
Yeah, and Gus is proud of him in this moment, because he says, I expect certain things. I expect this done. I was sent here to teach you idiots how to do this, because I know how to do it. I know how to do it well. I make better product than you guys have ever thought of doing. So he says, hey, asshole, why don't you go get the hydrochloric acid, however long it takes, and the rest of you dummies are going to clean up this lab. You guys not have standards? It looks like a dump in here. Everything's going to get cleaned, everything washed, because as he's learned from Walter, anything can cause, things to get in there, cause
contamination.
Contamination. And before we even cook for a second, this is getting spit shined. And Gus is just left there kind of smiling in the background as Jesse lays down the law.
Because in a sense, not only is he laying it to this chemist, but he's also kind of laying it to the cartel. Like, listen, like if this is how we do business on the U.S. This is we're going to do business here. So yeah, Gus likes the idea that for once he is kind of the man in this situation, and he's really taking control. He's not nervous, and he's willing to not just shy away and do things because that's the way they do it over there. He's got standards, and you close your eyes, you're listening to Walter basically rant about standards and all this contamination and all this science bullshit. So it's funny to hear, because you've seen how much it really affects Jesse overall with this cooking, and over all these seasons, and basically over the whole show, what it's been like for him. So yeah, no, it's good. And then finally he just gets down to cooking, and it's funny. It's, he's got a guy behind him with a camera following him around. There's plenty of men just kind of watching him work, all of them with masks on. And he's finally got his product. And it's this really tense scene where it's like, okay, well, he's made this for the first time without Walter. How's it going to turn out?
Yeah. So they get a syringe, they take some of it, put it in this machine to see how pure it is. And it keeps going up. And Jesse's like looking at it like, uh-oh. But it goes as 96.2% pure, which obviously is very good. And Jesse just goes, yes.
Yeah.
It yells out, yeah, bitch. And he looks at all of them. But then the sniper who met with Gus, who's been the right-hand man, comes up to him, pats him on the shoulder and says, first of many. And Jesse goes like, what? He goes, you're staying. You belong to the cartel now.
Which is obviously news to Jesse, which he didn't know, but it was it's his look after he's like,
Yeah.
what, like he's just dumbfounded. He's like, what?
Yeah.
And Gus kind of just looks over. He doesn't react. He just kind of says nothing.
Yeah, he can't tip his hand yet. You know, he's got to make believe. He's got to make think things are peaceful. But so we transport to the scene of our last episode where Gus's brother, our close friend Max, was killed. Gus is standing about in the exact location where Max was killed, staring at the water. Jesse and Mike are off to the sidelines. And Jesse obviously is shaken. He goes, Mike, like, do I really have to stay here? Like, please, I'm not staying here with these people. And Mike doesn't say much, but I said this before, and I think we agreed. He likes Jesse. Like, he just has a soft spot for him. Like, he always calls him kid, but you can tell it's out of affection. And he goes, kid, either we all go home or basically we all die.
Well, foreshadowing coming from Mike.
Yeah.
But he's because and I think this probably relaxes Jesse a little bit, thinking, okay, Mike's not been wrong very many times, so whatever he's got planned is good. And following after this, we see the same, I guess, boss, Don Eladio, arrive, and he's got a posse full of what looked like 250-pound men. Each one of them just look like butterballs, kind of trailing behind him. But we find out those are the captains, those are the capos, they call them in the cartel. So those are all kind of made men. And obviously they're important enough to be there because this is a big meeting. Just an awkward kind of exchange between Gus and Don Eladio. It's kind of like it's good to see you, but like kind of F you. And Don Eladio kind of gives it to Gus. He says, sometimes you just need a little slap. Sometimes you just need a little spanking. And this is just killing Gus in the inside. Is he likes the control, and he likes to think that he has everything under. And obviously Don Eladio is the man, and they're at his home right now.
Yeah, and so Jesse meets the Don. He doesn't know Spanish, does he? He goes, no. There's plenty of time for that kind of thing. And we see that he sees the gift, and he opens it up, and it's a beautiful bottle of tequila. You can tell it's very, very rare, beautifully sculpted bottle. And the Don tells these two servants to, get a bunch of glasses for everybody. And it's this interesting scene where he gets one, he's gonna pass it to Jesse, and Gus says, no, he's an addict. He can't drink. And Don says, okay, none for you then. Looking at him like cooking. But it's this another tense moment where Gus has one in his hand, and Don Eladio's looking at him like, you drink that first. Meaning, if there's poison in this, you're dying too. And Gus happily takes a big swig, and then the Don says to all his capos, like you said, let's drink, and in come a pile of strippers.
Yeah, they're having a good time, and it's a little celebration, I guess, on their new relationship. I guess they, as Gus put it, the renewed friendship of himself and the cartel. And he's just kind of sitting there awkwardly. Don Eladio comes over. He's like, I didn't want to do that to you, but every 20 years or so, I have to come back and, give you a little spank, just to basically just saying, like, I own you. Like this,
Yeah,
this relationship's not.
He said every 20 years you forget your place.
Yeah, which obviously refers, we didn't mention this, but at the beginning of this scene too, we see Gus looking over the pool, and clearly getting that image of his friend who was shot, and then basically you saw his blood from his head rip right into the pool. He's re-seeing this, all the emotion that he once had or all coming up for him. But yeah, this cannot feel good for Gus. As he's like Don said, every 20 years I got to let you know who you are. and that is that you work for me. And this kind of prones Gus to go use the old can.
Yeah, he says, "Can I go use the bathroom?" And Don's like, "Hey," tells one of his big guys, "Take him. Don't let him, go off." So he gets into the bathroom, and he's still Gus. He folds his jacket. He gets he gets a towel ready for after, puts it on the table. Then he gets a towel, puts it on the floor so he could rest his knees on it. And he goes and starts making himself throw up. And you're watching it the first time, you're like, okay, this is interesting. And meanwhile, while he's in the bathroom, Don Eladio's there looking around, and his men just start dropping like flies.
Yeah, they're falling down out of their chairs, they're falling into pools, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And Don himself drops his cigar and then goes to pick it up, and he can't even get back up.
Yeah.
He's kind of folded onto this table. It's at this time that I guess the sniper, like you called him, or the right hand man, kind of the younger guy of the group, starts to walk over to Don. And obviously this is a great scene, because obviously they were searched, but what they couldn't find was like one of these like wires that you would use to choke somebody.
Yeah.
And Mike goes over and takes this guy out, which it's a gruesome death. But Mike's got to have a little anger. He killed one of his men, earlier with that sniper scene that we saw, and Don is just kind of sitting there dying. Gus opens the door. The fat guy who was protecting him is there. He's dead. And he walks over, and it's just kind of him and Don Eladio. And Don Eladio's like, you bastard, like you did this. And Gus watches him plunge into the pool, which is totally ironic from what he saw the last time he was there.
Yeah, and he quickly, before he leaves, and Gus starts to faint, but he gets Don Eladio's necklace first, which clearly was important. It's a symbol of the cartel. But he starts grabbing his stomach. He threw up, but he had to sit there with that in his system for a while, because he couldn't just go puke right away, because that would be pretty obvious. So he's very weak, and we hear people start a commotion. There's strippers everywhere, but they're worried people are going to come fight. But he has enough strength to yell in Spanish, "Don is dead. You have no one to fight for. Fill your pockets or fight me and die." And Mike's just like, well, hopefully that works.
Yeah, no, some pretty powerful stuff, just because Gus is that guy, he's that character. And then as they're going, Mike's like, "Jesse, grab a gun and like let's get the hell out of here." So it's funny enough that Mike and Gus knew this whole plan, but they weren't confident enough to tell Jesse, because they didn't know if Jesse would like spoil it, or he was too nervous. So it's ironic that that Jesse's kind of the odd man out. But sure enough, they get there and they finally get into a car, and before Mike can get in, he gets shot in the stomach.
Yeah, he gets shot through the car window, but Jesse's quick. He's got the gun. He reacts instantaneously, fires about 8 to 10 rounds, hits a guy twice in the chest, and he's dead. But Mike is hurt, and that's who Jesse obviously cares that Gus lives, but he really cares about Mike. And he's like, "Mike, are you okay?" And he just says, Mike says, get us out of here, kid." And really the episode ends with them driving off.
Yeah. So an intense exchange. Gus clearly making the biggest chess move of the whole show, taking out the main man for the cartel and all his capos too. So basically everyone who's you could say all his serpents heads, serpents heads, all taken out as well. So he's done his due and kind of overall got his revenge, right, Juggy?
Absolutely. And you just talk about chess, and just he was willing to sacrifice himself in a sense. He took a risk. He was, this might get over your head, Shay, but he was Ron Weasley in a sense in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, where he allowed Harry to move on while he was killed in the chess game riding the horse. I don't know if you recall that.
I know the reference
from the movies or the books, but Ron took a calculated risk that Harry would be able to take down professor of the dark arts, and it worked out. And for Gus, we don't know if he's going to live, but as of right now, they've fleed Don Eladios, and that threat has been neutralized.
Yeah. Do you think that this was planned all along when he said that he was gonna, like when he accepted their offer and he wanted to renew the friendship? Do you think from
Yeah,
that moment he knew that he was gonna take him out that way?
I think he knew he was going to take him out somehow. I don't think
Right.
this was determined yet, but he knew he wasn't going to let him run his life. Like he's like, no, I'll die before I let him control my life again. Like,
True. Yeah.
I
True.
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, absolutely. It's it's almost shocking to see. And watching it the first time, I had no idea what Gus was doing. I didn't know why he was in the bathroom
me.
puking. And then when I start to see them drop like flies, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's as crazy as they come, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was a suicide bomber type move where he's just like,
Mm.
okay, I'll drink what you guys are drinking, and I'll hopefully I live here long enough to get help. And episode 11, entitled Crawl Space, starts with we see doctors in this makeshift hospital of sorts. They're
Mhm.
getting stretchers ready, they're getting IVs, and one of the doctors gets a call, and we just hear them wheel out the stretcher, and we hear a horn just blaring, blaring, blaring. And it's Jesse coming into this parking lot like a bat out of hell. And these doctors go to Gus, and they start putting needles into him, giving him fluids. They wheel him inside, while Jesse's like, "Por favor, like help me! Like this guy's shot," and they could give a shit about Mike.
Yeah, Jesse ends up basically walking Mike in, puts him on a bed, and says like, "You guys gonna help this guy?" And the main doctor goes, "This guy pays my salary," referring to Gus, as in like, I
Mm,
I got to save this guy before I can even think about whether Mike's gonna be okay or not. And you can see the genuine concern from Jesse. Obviously, like it's like you said, he cares if Gus lives, but he's grown really attached to Mike, and he, obviously wants to see him live. So that's why he's putting up such a fuss to get him. And clearly, Mike's not doing well. He's kind of pale in the face. I know he's
yeah.
old, but you can still kind of see it. He's lost a lot of blood, dripping all the way down him. So real concern if Mike's going to make it or not, for sure.
Yeah. And an interesting scene, the next one, where they're at the hospital, and Jesse kind of says, like, does he need more blood? Referring to Mike. They've taken care of him to some level at this point. And he goes, yeah, go get some in the freezer. And he opens it, and he kind of sees that he's been valued, Shay, because he opens it and he sees on each shelf, there's blood for Gus. It says Gustavo Fring, Mike Ehrmantraut, and then it says Jesse Pinkman. And they all have different blood types. And first off, the doctor knows Jesse's blood type, and there's 3 to 4 bags of blood there for him. So clearly they were prepared in the event, say Jesse was the one that got shot. They cared if he lived or died.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly. You're right, and he does. He feels that, and he's asking them questions, and the doctor knows more about his health than he does, referring to his drinking and
Mm,
smoking, and he says, "Oh, you're allergic to this," but he obviously they were willing to find out this information even behind Jesse's back, knowing anything could happen when it came down to it there. So yeah, he feels some kind of value coming his way, which leads us more to believe that he's going towards Gus than he is Walt at this point.
exactly. And at this point, Gus is okay. They'd say Mike's going to need 2 weeks. He can't travel with the bullet wound and everything. Gus is okay, but they go outside, and they don't have the plane. Obviously, they can't go back that way. They're going to have to walk 6 miles to the Texas area. Then they're going to get a drive. And while they're driving, Gus says, I think you can handle the lab alone. Like, you proved that this week. Like, you did it. And, uh, you know, Jesse says, just fire Mr. White. Just fire him. I'll keep cooking for you. I enjoy working for you, but don't kill him, because if you kill him, you lose me.
Yeah, and this is we from their last exchange, you could have thought, well, Jesse probably doesn't give two shits if Walter lives or dies at this point, but clearly he still cares enough to value his life, and he won't let Gus take him like that. And he's really risking it all by saying, I'm not comfortable taking it all over uh, without Walter walking away from this unharmed. And Gus says this is going to be a problem. Like, obviously I can't just do nothing about this. Too much bad blood has basically been spilled between Gus that he can just let this go. And like we just saw in the last episode, he really doesn't. He holds a grudge pretty excessively.
Right. And at the end of the last episode, I forgot to mention this, Tyrus pulls up as soon as Junior leaves and he
Yeah.
goes, "You got somewhere to be?" And we see now that Walt is back cooking. He weighs it. He's wrong with his calculations because Tyrus does it again and gives him just that look because he hardly says it. He just gives him the look like, and Walt's like, "I can't hold off my brother-in-law anymore. Like, I got beat up, whatever, but like he wants to go look at the farm. Like, what do I say? What do I do?" And Tyrus gives him nothing. Just leaves with the map and shuts the hatch of the elevator. And Walt's just like, "What the hell?"
I know he may be we think Mike doesn't say a lot. This guy says, I think, even less, which is pretty remarkable. But yeah, no, so he's not getting him anything. You see that he's actually at watching
Mike's house.
God, I can't. Yeah,
Hank's
he's watching
house.
Hank's house, Hank and Marie's, and Walter drives by, kind of slow, looks at him, but so he goes and picks him up, and where do they happen to go, Dougie?
They go to the chicken farm, and they're kind of looking around. It's kind of funny because Walt's like, "So, see anything?" He goes, "Nope." He goes, "Well, you just think like, you got any news, any cartel news, anything? Any what's the scuttlebutt?" And Hank's like, "Well, I heard about these two turfs fighting each other down there, but who the hell knows? Like, could be anything." And Walt's like, "Well, do you know anything more? Like, the people involved?" He goes, "No, just scope this out." And he's just, Walt's just like, "I don't think there's much here, Hank. Like, this is clearly a dead end."
Yeah, and Hank addresses the elephant in the room, says, what the hell happened to your face? At this time, Walter's still beat the shit out of. He's got this big bold scar near his eyebrow. His face is still purple, and he says, he goes, Hank, this is none of you or anybody else's business. I'm done explaining myself, and really kind of gives a brash answer to someone he probably should be more open with, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, and just don't give him a reason to worry or wonder because Walt is such a sketchy guy and he's so close to the situation. But again, he's being Walter. Back in the ABQ, or Albuquerque, as we say, Gus goes to see our little buddy Hector Salamanca, and it was in the last episode where he went to see Hector, where he recounted the story of Max dying. So it's only fitting he goes back to this nursing home, and he pulls out Don Eladio's chain and waves it in front of his face because Hector won't look at him, but he sees the chain and he starts crying uncontrollably. He's knowing. He says he starts by naming off the people. He says the Don, all the Chapos, and your grandson Joaquin is dead. And then he brings Jesse in. Says, "You know him, don't you, Hector? He was a part of killing Tuco as well." And he goes, "This man killed him. He shot him twice, and now the Salamanca name will die with you."
Yeah, he really kind of getting the ultimate revenge, and it's so cool that this comes around. Like you said, like he was recapping the story with Max in 2 episodes prior, and then all these events happen, and then he gets to come back, and get to see him finish his conversation where he's basically like, F you. I took everybody out myself, and now you're basically the last man standing, and because you're crippled, basically you can't do anything, which, that's not entirely true, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, and then he's staring. He's at this point, Gus is still talking to him, and he's just profusely staring at Jesse, like, I'm gonna get you. Like, I don't know what you got planned for him, but and it's kind of a flex too, bringing Jesse there, because I mean, what business does Jesse have with this guy right now, right? Like he doesn't have any beef with Hector.
It was definitely a cocky, just a purely cavalier, cocky move that he's like, this is the guy who killed your grandson, the last one. Like he did it. Look at him. Like look at him. And yeah, he clearly hates him more than any person on planet Earth. Like he hates Hector, but he's not going to kill Hector because he just knows that Hector can't do anything about it. He's crippled. He's got the bell, but that's it. So
it's almost better, for him. It's more satisfying to keep him alive, to let him live in pain, which is beyond cruel if you think about it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. He's gonna make him live while make him suffer this whole time and keep him there. Skylar gets a message from Ted, but she goes over and she says, he says, so what's up, Ted? Yeah, I thought about it. Appreciate the money, but yeah, I'm not gonna pay the IRS. I don't feel great taking the money from you, dirty gambling money, which is oddly for a guy cooking his own books, holier than thou attitude. But yeah, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to give you the money back. But he kind of implies that it's not enough money. He's kind of like, nah, I wouldn't take gambling money, but it wouldn't really help me anyway. Like I need more for it to really, be consequential. And he's all over the place.
Yeah, he's basically saying like, I got to keep up this lifestyle and help my employees and keep my daughters in school and all this. And he's like, but if I had, he's basically saying like, no. And he goes, oh, I'm wording this so wrong. I'm just not explaining myself, which is so. It just boils my blood, I guess, thinking about this guy. And he just, well, he's got his solution right in front of him. Skylar's clearly just like, just take the money and make things right, because clearly this is the only way you're getting out of this. And you're right, Ted is basically like not blackmailing her, but by saying, if you give me more money, then like I will pay the IRS, which is funny enough. Skylar goes, you didn't even give me the full amount of money back, because like you said in the last one, Ted bought a BMW, and of course he's got payments out coming already. And he goes, oh, if I knew where that money came from, I wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah.
and Skylar's like, I don't want the money back. I just want you to pay what you owe.
Yeah. And he writes her a check. She rips it up and she says, gets the checkbook. She says, do it again. Write the right one to the IRS and to the Internal Revenue Service for this amount of money. He goes, nah, I'm okay. So she leaves the house pissed off, and she makes a call to one Saul Goodman.
And Saul goes, I can do my best. I'll put my A team on it.
Yeah.
And Saul's version of an A team is very much watered down than the real thing. We come to find out.
Yeah, so we'll go to that first because there's a bunch of different storylines. We'll try to keep them together here. So Ted gets a knock at the door, and first we see Bill Burr, obviously the redheaded comedian. And we've seen him before lie to get the car washed. He's clearly on Saul's payroll. He goes, hey, Mr. Beneke, how are you? Beautiful place. And him and this large black gentleman named Hugh Babineau walk in. And he goes, well, I didn't invite you in. Like, let's go. And he goes, so first thing you should know, Mr. Beneke, is the biggest thing you can do today is keep Huel happy. And he kind of says to Huel, you happy? Reasonably. And he goes, well, what wouldn't make you happy, Huel? And he goes, this little motherfucker not doing with his toes. And he goes, what would make you happy, Huel? He says, checks. And so Bill Burr basically says, so you're going to sign a check to the IRS for $226.31. And we're going to mail it. And if you don't, well, Huel is going to get angry.
And right away, Ted's like, oh, well, if this has to do with Skylar, like, did Skylar send you? Like, Skylar's a good friend of mine. Tried to totally turn the situation after, pretending they haven't just argued for the last few days. And, Ted's like, oh, and finally they get him to sign it, and checks almost in the mail, Juggy, but a little act of God, you could say, ends up happening for old Ted Beneke.
Yeah. So he says, yeah, so I'm going to go mail this. You can hang out with Huel for a couple hours. I'm going to come back. I got some stuff, make some sandwiches. We can watch TV for a couple days. It'll be fun. But then it's also a good joke that I love this little chime in. He goes, unless you don't have TV, then this is going to suck. But before he can go mail it, Ted makes a beeline for the door, full sprint. But there's a carpet, and he trips on it and goes head first into the bottom of the cabinet. And basically his neck spine is messed up, and we just see his pinky moving just slightly, meaning that he's hurt pretty bad here.
Yeah, Bill Burr and Huel just kind of look at each other like, yeah, well, that was weird.
Yeah.
And and they're back in the office with Skylar, and they're kind of like, oh, like, I don't know what happened. And Huel goes, it was an act of God.
Yeah.
And Skull's like, well, what am I supposed to tell Skylar? Oh yeah, don't worry, the check is mailed. But Ted's neck is broken, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not a good look. I guess the second part of that thing,
yeah,
that
we'll
scene, we'll
wait
get
on
into
that one.
But we'll return to that.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Hank wants to go on another ride along, and Walt thinks they're driving to the chicken farm again. But Hank says, no, I actually got a new place we're going to check out. Just keep driving. And Hank, well, let's go. Okay, where are we going? He says, we're going to an industrial laundromat, basically the location of the lab. And he's, what do you mean? He goes, well, no, Gus doesn't own it, but the company that helps fund Los Pollos Hermanos, Magical Electromotive, does. It owns this laundromat. And you know who signed for one of these things? Gail Bedecker. And well, it's like, I don't know. It sounds like a stretch, Hank. Like, this is, I think you're reaching. And he goes, okay, I know police work better than you do, Walt. Like, can you just drive there? I said, okay, yeah, okay. And he's so panicked. Like, he's like, what am I going to do? And he says, take a right. And he drives past it. And he goes, Walt, I told her to take a right. He says, damn it, I forgot. But he's going to do a U-E, but instead, so clearly on purpose, he rams his Aztec into oncoming traffic.
Yeah, literally puts himself in danger, kind of to hide the fact. And you got to I give a little props to not to him, no, to Hank. Mm-hmm. I mean, he laid down the whole format of everything going on, and basically he solved the case. Really, he had it like in his hands, you could say. He said, oh, like this would be the perfect place for a super lab. Like, this is it. This has got to be it. And Walter panicked, made this move, and clearly got himself out of a huge jam. The next scene we see that Hank is kind of laid up again. He's got a neck brace on. He's like, oh, I'm like a dog that can't lick his nuts.
Yeah.
And this is a funny scene where Walter's like, oh, like I didn't even see him coming. And Hank's like, I did. I saw him from a mile away.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it seemed like it was on purpose. Or I guess, it was on purpose, and Hank can kind of see it, but he kind of lets it go, which, I mean, it's kind of funny. And we find out that Hank basically bought one of those vehicles where you can drive by, hitting the, it's got on the steering wheel, you can use the levers, I guess. Mm-hmm. So he's got this custom made vehicle coming in, and he's going to be able to ride himself, which worries Walter because that means he doesn't know where Hank's going to get up to.
Right. He goes, oh, he's like, shit, I just made this situation worse. I could control the situation before on the ride-alongs and, alert people. I can't anymore. So, there's a lot going on, and we'll start with Jesse is back home. Brock and Andrea are over. They're kind of like another, he's back with her. Looks like a family environment. Walt is panicked because he doesn't know anything about the whole Mexico trip or what's going on. So he goes over and Jesse goes like, starts shoving him, get the hell out of here. Like, I don't want to see you. And he kind of says, like, he's going to replace me. I know he's going to replace me. Now that you've proven that you can do it, like he's going to kill me. But to his credit, Jesse's not having it. And he kind of says, like, beat it or we're going to have serious problems here.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think it's worth noting Walter's actually kind of happy that Jesse's alive, which is surprising. He's like, he basically tells him, he's like, you know what, your ass is fired. Just stop, like, just get away. And Walter is basically begging for his life, and Jesse goes, you know what, dude, the last thing you told me, you said, I hope you end up in barrel in Mexico, and then kind of walks off. And Walter's just kind of left speechless because, he's wrong. He's in the wrong in this case. He didn't trust Jesse before they left. Jesse needed help, kind of batted him down for that. And, what does Walter see when he turns around? Tyrese with a taser, basically kind of gives it to him on the lawn, kind of gives him a couple jabs. And then next thing you know, Walter's out in the middle of the desert with a bag over his head.
Yeah, wakes up in the middle of the desert, middle of the day. We see Gus pull up in his Volvo, and he kind of goes, what the hell's going on? And he says to Walter, stay away from Jesse. You're fired. Stay away from Jesse. Don't go near the lab or else. And Walt still has the balls to be, or what? You're going to kill me? If you kill me, Jesse won't cook for you. You won't make any money. Basically saying, like, snobbing his nose at him. Jesse won't cook for you. You can't turn him against me. Gus, though, is more confident now. He says, for now. But you know what? Hank is a problem. I told you to deal with it. You failed. I must now deal with it my way. If you get involved, if you alert him, if you do anything to stop my plans, I will kill Skylar. I'll kill your son. Or I'll basically cut your baby daughter to shreds right in front of you. Sending a direct message of what his intentions are if Walter decides he wants to play some games.
Yeah, this direct threat. I mean, he's not messing around at this point. I mean, he's giving pretty clear orders not to come around. And I mean, Walter gets the message clear. He's cut loose, and then he's able to go. And then this is kind of where we return back to Saul's office. He bursts into Saul's room with Huel and Bill Burr are still there. He's like Saul, and Saul Goodman goes, referring back to Ted Beneke getting his neck broken, goes, how did you know so fast? And Walter's like, what are you talking about? And he kicks the two other goons out of the room, and then basically goes, Saul, I need that guy, referring to the guy who makes people disappear. Kind of like sounds like a very sneaky service that is kind of exclusive to some people. And Saul gives him the number and says, call this number. You ask for this, this, and this. It's going to be $125K for each head.
Person.
Yeah. So have the money up front, because if you don't have the cash up front, he makes it very clear. If you don't have the cash up front, he's not going to do a thing for you. So make sure you have it.
Yeah. So Walt says, okay, thank you, Saul. But before I go, you need to call the DEA and alert them that there's a hit on Hank. And Saul's like, no, I got enough heat on my ass. And he goes, I can't do it. I'm basically family to the DEA. I can't make that call. Give me an hour, get my shit together. Please make the call. And Saul finally goes, okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, I'll do it. He goes, thank you, Saul. And we see Walt rush home. Clearly he's made a call to Skylar because she shows up later. But he goes down into the crawl space, and the money is hidden in clothes in dry cleaning bags. And he's looking through it, and he goes, where is it? This isn't enough. Like, he's looking around. Skylar comes over, and there's this really intense music. It's like it's like a heartbeat. I found Shay. It's just like, and he goes, where is it? where's it? And he kind of screams, where's the money? And she goes, I gave it to Ted. And he's just like, what? You gave our money to that idiot? And she goes, I had to for the family. And we hear the phone start ringing. But in the midst of this, Walter starts scream/laughing like a Joker type laugh, Shay. This maniacal laugh of fear and also just like, I'm fucked.
Basically his laugh is like, this is so bad it's almost funny. You know what I mean? That's probably what's going through his head. He lets out a howl and then just turns into this almost evil laugh he's got. And then, Skylar's in tears. She's clearly upset because now she thinks something's really, really wrong. Clearly knows that they're probably in danger. And, it's Marie on the phone. Marie starts leaving a message basically saying, I don't know what's going on. It's happening again. The DEA called. They got a tip off that the cartel wants to kill Hank, and they're coming. They know DEA agents are coming here, and shit has hit the fan. Like that's the only way you can say it. Like it went from like not great to total
chaos,
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. And that's how the episode kind of ends. Waltz just stops laughing. He's laying down in the crawl space, just looking up at the ceiling. And, it's gone from, like you said, bad to worse. He was told to shut up, not do anything, but he couldn't risk Hank dying. But now he doesn't have an exit strategy. So Hank is not safe, technically, even though the DA is alerted. But also, his family's not safe. He's clearly not safe because Gus is going to be pissed off with him that he made that call. And he knows he's basically on borrowed time at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no other person that would have known that Gus was going after Hank but Walter. So it's evident that he was the one who made that decision. And it's just feels like a matter of time. And it's a great way to end the episode, because if you were, like we always refer to, if you were watching this weekly, obviously this would be like, oh my God, like I gotta know what happens. Like are they gonna die? Like how are they gonna get back at it? So it's exciting. It's great couple episodes, like we said. I just remembering back in high school when I watched this the first time, Dougie, I just vividly remember this scene of him going into the crawl space, trying to find the money, digging around, and then him, basically yelling at Skylar, saying like, what the hell where's the money I made? And Skylar having to be like, I gave it to the guy I used to have an affair with. That's how I remembered it so vividly. And I'm like, oh, that's such a great scene.
Yeah, I similar for me. I watched it my first year uni in the dorm room after Chubb recommended it, and watched it in about 2.5 weeks. The entire series, as I tended to do back in the day, Mad Men, The Office, etc. But yeah, this was an incredible scene and great acting from Cranston. Like you said, that laugh. I mean, not everybody can pull off that laugh and make it believable. But obviously, it's interesting to see what happens next week in our last 2 episodes of season 4, Shay, because Walter's on the run now. Everybody's after him. I mean, how's Jesse going to react to this with Walter basically on borrowed time? Gus. I mean, it's a lot to still see what happens next week in the final 2 episodes of season 4.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's excited to break it down. It's like we say once in a while, it's tough not to watch ahead and kind of see what happens. But I'm excited to get to the weekend so I can finally see this happen. But what's on the rest of the schedule for you this week?
This week I'm going to be podcasting a few times with a few of our friends. Harrison Shooting Bell later in the week, podcasting with Ben Murray later in the week. I think we'll be going to the St. Richbuckto Rangers game on the week on Friday, so take that in. Just watch some sports throughout the week, do some podcasting. Same old work in there as well. How about yourself? Any big plans this week?
No, nothing major. Gonna probably take it easy, like you said, taking that Rangers game. Really excited to witness my first one of those. Sounds like they get good crowds, and I'm excited to see. Excited to see some competitive hockey, I guess, in our small town of Rexon / Richbuckto. So looking forward to that. At the beginning of the month, we talk about the star, or I shouldn't say star, but the I guess set line for all these new movies coming out. So many great ones. Have you been able to chance to take any in, or are you too dialed up with the old
Yeah,
SPORTs?
unfortunately, I haven't. It's tough to get away. I'd like to, if there's a movie Friday afternoon before the Rangers game and I could get back, maybe that's the move. Because I want to see, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Dune.
That's next on my list.
Yeah, I want to see that one. I know you went and saw Daniel Craig's Final Stand, right?
Yeah, I went to go see No Time to Die. It was between that and The Last Duel. Both look phenomenal, and I think I will end up watching The Last Duel eventually. So many great movies, you can't take them all in, which sucks, but it was really good. I'd say that was probably my third favorite, I guess, out of the Craig saga. So it was good. Yeah, it was
favorite?
Skyfall.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, really like Skyfall, and then Royale, and then this one.
What was the one before this one? Was that Spectre?
Spectra, yeah, that was probably my least favorite.
Oh yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, but no. So it's yeah. So, but like you said, I'm really looking forward to watching Dune. If I don't watch it this weekend, probably next Tuesday after we record, I'll probably go check that out, because you know me, I just love all that sci-fi goodness, and I'm just eager to see it. If anyone's not aware of it, go look at the cast, and I think that's probably good enough to draw you in. It's got a all-star lineup, we'll say.
Yeah, and you're cheap, so you go on cheap night.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm not spending the. I used a regular pass last Friday when I watched the Bond movie, so it was okay.
Just see, I might go on cheap night now. I normally wouldn't, because I hate big crowds, but because of COVID and not being able to do anything, I might just go on Tuesday to see if there is a big crowd and just enjoy being there with a bunch of people.
Surprisingly, for that movie, there was hardly anybody. So I don't know if many people are going to the movies, or they just rather stay home. So I don't know how it's going. I guess when you have multiple screenings of the same movie at the same time, sometimes you get lucky and you don't get to see as many. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you don't like crowds, sometimes the movie's not the greatest place to be.
Yeah, I'll have to look up some showtimes, because I forgot about The Last Duel too. I kind of want to see that one too. So yeah, there's a lot of good movies right now for sure. No, your lease, you're off till Friday, so you're off the hook. I know the NBA starts tonight. You gonna take any of that in?
Yeah, I'll probably watch. Like you mentioned earlier, it might start too late. I don't know what time LA and
starts at 11, but Milwaukee, Brooklyn at 8:30.
Yeah, I'll take in a little bit of that game, like we talked about earlier. My daughter's playing about 20 minutes, so definitely watch some of that. But no, I'm looking forward to ball being back. It's exciting, and I think the whole Kyrie thing. I don't know if you've touched on that in one of your prior pods. Yeah, just very, very interesting to me how someone can make that decision. But who knows what goes on in people's heads?
Yeah, there's
right?
there's selfless people and there's selfish people, and I would say Kyrie Irving or Vander Kane or circle gets the square on that one. Great show today. We'll be back next week, but Shay, have a good week, and we'll see you this weekend.
Appreciate that. See you this weekend, buddy.
Everybody have a good one. I'll be back tomorrow to talk last night's Monday Night Football game. We'll touch on the NBA starting up, the NHL, Toronto not being able to score goals, and lots more. We'll talk soon.